Hey, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by content creation or trying to grow online, this video is for you. I started creating content intentionally on Instagram in 2022, and since then I've just gone from like 3,000 followers to over 26k with no dancing, no oversharing, and no chasing trends, just by following a simple, sustainable system I enjoy using. Now, some might say that's some slow growth, but for me, it's been real consistent and on my terms. A lot of people assume you need fancy gear or a huge personality or some secret to grow, but honestly, that's not been my story. In this video, I'm breaking down my full content creation workflow from messy ideas and drafts to published reels. I'll walk you through how I plan and organize content, where I find content ideas, how easy it is to refine scripts, my batch recording and editing process, and how I stay consistent without burning out. So whether you are deep in a niche or still figuring out your lane, I'm confident there's something in here that will help you create better with less stress, hopefully. So let's get right into it. First thing I'm going to be talking about is strategy. It's important to identify the type of content you want to create and what your content pillars are. For me as a person, those are the things I'm comfortable talking about. So things like tech, face, work, marriage, sometimes having fun, playing tennis, just general lifestyle things that I'm comfortable talking about in front of the camera that I want to make public. The other thing is I believe in the 80-20 rule, which means that 20% of your content is probably going to generate 80% of the results you're going to get. So which means every content you create should have a goal. For me, that can be like storytelling, growth, or just engagement. Really, there are content I create that I know that this is just basically for humor and for engagement. There are content I create for me to tell a particular story. One of those kind of content for storytelling was the one I shared sometime last year, about an incident that happened with my MacBook where I spilled coffee on it and how I got it repaired by Apple. The goal for that particular content is for me to share something that happened to me and a lesson and a reflection I had from it. So every content should have its goal, whether it's to tell a story or to drive engagement or to drive growth. But don't get it wrong, it doesn't have to be one particular goal. So every time I'm about to create a content, I'm asking myself, who is this for and what is my objective here? Am I trying to tell a story, or am I just creating this for engagement, or am I just creating this for the aesthetics? Just various things like that. For me as a person, I have a Trello board that I use to manage all my content. So anytime I have an idea, I open Trello on my phone or Google Keep and I type the idea there so I don't forget. And sometimes, it can be in between conversations. It can just be me thinking about something unrelated. I might just be reading something, might be a book, Instagram, Twitter, and I might just read a particular sentence, or I might be watching a movie and hear something and I'll be like, yes, that actually makes sense, and that's something I love to create content about. So what I'll do in that moment is to write it down by putting it on my Trello board or Google Keep so that I don't forget. Right? And the good thing about the Trello board is that I already have tags for the content pillars I talked about earlier. So for me, that's like lifestyle, tech, fitness, travel, faith, marriage, etc. So I have all of those various tags already on Trello, so I'm able to assign that to the cards when I had them on there. So for example, when I'm thinking, I need to create something fitness related, probably it's been a while or something, I can just go on the board and filter by that particular tag. Then I'll see a content that I can hopefully create, and it's ready to go live soon. And my Trello board is divided into 5 columns. I have the topic pool, research, ready for shoot, editing, and released. So in between, is that 5? Yeah, I think that's 5. So my goal per week is to ensure that there is movement in every column per week. That is very, very important. The board kind of gives me a clear pipeline into my entire content creation. So that is what I use to manage the flow of how the topic progress from one stage to the other. So speaking of moving things into ready for shoot or getting ready for recording, scripting, and that is where AI comes in, right? I do scripting. So for all my videos, especially for the ones that are not the quick ones, maybe I want to tell a particular story or I want to record a particular sequence or something, I usually ensure I do proper scripting. So sometimes that might be me writing out the entire script of what I'm going to be talking about in that content. Or sometimes it might just be outlines, point that these are the points I want to talk about. I use the Trello board for other content types. So it's not just videos. I use it for like carousel and post as well. So which means my scripting can also just be writing out each of the paragraph of the things I'm going to be talking about. But yeah, this is where AI comes in. So I write my draft first on, Trello, and then I copy that draft into, ChatGPT or Gemini, depending on the mood I'm feeling for that day. Then I refine that particular script using, AI tool. The prompt I'm giving it is like, oh, you are an Instagram creator. This is the script for this X, Y, and Z. Make this more engaging. Give me 10 opening hook ideas for this content. Give me other suggestions that I can use to adapt it for TikTok, for example, or give me ideas of thumbnail to use for YouTube or something like that. How can I make this better? Those are like the kind of prompt I give ChatGPT or Gemini to actually refine the script, and it's been really super helpful. Right, but let me say this here. One important mistake to avoid here is losing your tone when you're finding with AI. Don't just run with whatever ChatGPT dumps out or whatever Gemini spit out for you. We should treat AI like an assistant, not a ghostwriter. Give it direction, let it help, but always review and tweak whatever it generates for you, so that it sounds like something you actually say. So it's very important to ensure that you're maintaining your tone as you're using AI to like refine stuff. That is what I do a lot. So I write my draft first, put it into ChatGPT to refine it, then I go through it again to ensure that, does this sound like me? And I always give it instruction like, keep it simple, don't use big English. So at the end of the day, whatever script I end up with sounds like something I'm actually going to say or something I'll write myself. I'm just using AI here to make it better and to, shorten the time, that I need to do scripting. The next thing that is worth talking about here is recording. So yeah, how I do recording is I do it in batches, right? Like I mentioned, every time I'm going on that Trello board, I ensure I have like 2 or 3 content in the ready to shoot column, which means that when I want to record, I'm trying to record like 2 or 3 content at once so that I can batch edit that as well, have something I can release, 2-3 days, release back to back. Yeah, so recording, I ensure I record in batch. I feel like that's very important. One thing that I believe has made content creation very easy for me is batch creating things I need to do. Having a backlog of topics, content to record, content I've recorded, backlog of content I've edited, ready to be released. That makes a lot of difference for me. And in terms of the gear I use camera, the one I'm using to record this video right now. That is what I use to record most of my content. Or when I'm not using that, I use my phone, which I'm using to record as second camera right now. And where I record depends on the kind of content I'm recording, right? Like I said, I have different content pillars. When I'm traveling, I'm probably using my phone to record short reels. When I'm taking more cinematic videos with like my camera. When I'm at home and I'm just doing talking head videos like this, I'm using my camera and I'm just using my phone as a secondary camera. The other thing I need to mention here is that it's very important to have B-rolls. Because of the kind of content I create, I ensure I record everything with my phone. So say I'm going out, I'm going to tennis, I'm just trying to record as many clips as possible, such that if I need to create any content tomorrow about anything, there's always a clip somewhere that kind of relates to that thing I want to talk about. So for example, when I was talking about the MacBook story I talked about earlier, when I went into the Apple store, the day the coffee actually spilled on my MacBook, I was about joining a meeting and I picked my phone to actually take a picture and quickly record a video, right? Which was helpful for me to tell the story when I was eventually telling the story on Instagram. And when I got to the Apple store as well, I think I also recorded or took some pictures there. So it's very important to actually, take as many pictures as possible. Sometimes some of these pictures are things or videos, they are things I post my stories on Instagram just for the fun of it. They're always there in Google Photos for me to search through if I need something that relates to something I want to talk about. That applies to me because I'm a lifestyle content creator. Depending on the kind of content you create, you might deploy a different strategy. But as much as possible, I recommend that you record clips. It can just be 5-10 seconds clip of a particular moment that you think you might need later on. It's going to be very helpful. Those are moments that you can probably go back. For example, the MacBook, to recreate that, I'm not going to spill coffee on my MacBook again, but yeah, so it's good to have that recording. Okay, let me pause at this point to say a quick thank you to the sponsor of this video, me. So if you find this helpful, kindly encourage me to make more content like this by liking, subscribing, and dropping your comments of which part of this that you are finding most helpful. I actually appreciate it a lot. Thank you so much. Like I was saying, I edit in batch as well, ensuring I'm editing like multiple clips at the same time so that I'm able to release like content back to back. And most of the time I do this over the weekend or late at night like this. I'm currently recording this. This is 12:31 a.m. So most of the time I'm either recording late at night like this or editing in the evenings for the weekend, so that, and editing in batches so that I have 2, 3, 4 content to go, for a week or to last me like a long time and things like that. Yeah, and in terms of the software I use CapCut Pro on desktop. I edit here on my MacBook. To be honest, I don't know how people edit with their phone. I've tried it on the phone before. I didn't enjoy the process. I've tried editing on my iPad before as well. I didn't enjoy it as well. Like, I've tried it and it's just more difficult. I just like the accessibility of editing on a big screen and using a trackpad or a mouse and things like that. So yeah, in terms of the style of my content, I try to maintain like a consistent style. I've seen a lot of creators share this online before, that you should always try to make your content recognizable. When your content comes up, people should be able to like tell, oh, this is from this person. And how I'm able to achieve that as a person is by using the same font, almost the same transition, tone, and even audio effects in my content. Oh, and the other thing I'm here to mention during editing is that I use AI as well. And the AI tool I use, the Adobe Enhance, I use that to upgrade the quality of my audio, making it better. I try to use quality mic, but besides that, I then use Enhance to like improve the quality as well and to give you like that studio or that podcast effect. In terms of background music, I used to use the one on Instagram, but I stopped using that recently, and I'm now using more audios from Pixabay. They are mostly free audios there that I can use for as background music on content on Instagram or TikTok. Yes, for YouTube, I use audios from the YouTube audio library. So there's an audio library where you're able to download royalty free audio, and that is what I use for my YouTube background music. In terms of effects on the videos, I try to keep it simple as well. I don't do over editing, but yeah, that's my own style. I have friends that do more heavy editing and do a lot more interesting transitions. For the kind of content I do, I just feel like keeping it simple makes it kind of relatable to people that are watching me and my audience. And so far that has worked for me. Though once in a while I try to like experiment, but these are like the basic things I do to keep it consistent and keep it simple, and that works. Yeah, that's it for editing. Here I don't overthink it at all. In terms of how do I release my content, I have a lot of friends that do scheduling and use tools to do all of that. But for me, I manually upload my content on my phone, which is quite weird and strange. I like using the Instagram app to just upload into Instagram. On desktop, I use TikTok. In my browser, if I'm uploading to Twitter or LinkedIn as well, I use desktop. But most of the time, to my Instagram, I rarely schedule stuff. Maybe once in a while I schedule, and I don't have any automation. So far, that has worked for me. But let me know what works for you in the comment. The other thing is in terms of timing and frequency. Personally, I try to create content at least 4 to 5 times a week, which means that I can post, I can have like 1 or 2 days in between to like rest when I'm not, posting anything, and use it to like maybe edit, clean up script and things like that. And yeah, I usually post early in the morning or late in the evening, like say 4 or 5 p.m. or thereabouts, so that people can see it in the evening and into the night. Or I post early in the morning, say 7 or 8 a.m. so that people see it as they're starting their day. I think that kind of works for me. There are times I try not to pay so much attention to this because I know people that use these apps use it at different times of the day. So there's actually no point to it. The content that will do well. All of this is just me posting when I feel like it's most comfortable. I've made posts late at night before, 10 p.m. just because I just want to post, or very early in the morning before, just whatever that works for you. I don't believe you have to post in a particular time for you to reach your audience. Yes, there are recommended time when people are more online, but for content that will do well, I believe it to just do well. But one thing I won't do is to make a post at midnight, because what am I doing at midnight? Who am I sharing that with? That's just my own personal opinion on what has worked for me so far. that's about the life cycle of my content creation so far, especially for Instagram and short form content. But before you go, I'm just going to share some couple of tips that I think is worth noting and worth bearing in mind as you start creating content. One of them is to ensure that you keep it sustainable. Stick to a schedule that works for you. If you want to create once per week, ensure that you stick to that once per week. If you want to create 3 times per week, make sure that it is something you can sustain for a long time, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's where I see content creation. It's not something that I just want to do for a short time and burn out. It's something you probably want to do for the long time to see like good results and to see tangible results. So yeah, keep it sustainable. Find a routine that works for you, or a schedule that works for you. If it's 3 times per week or 4 times per week, kindly stick to that. The other thing is always check your analytics. It's your friend, really. Analytics of videos doing well or post that is doing well. I do this a lot. I look at the post that is doing very well, find a way to repurpose those kind of content. Sometimes I look at a post that it might just be a random tweet that I, put it out on Twitter. Maybe people are relating to that particular tweet. So what I do is then, copy the tweet, put it on my Trello board that, okay, I can translate it to like a YouTube content or an Instagram content. Analytics is very, very important. Look at what works, the format that works, the content that works, and then, trying to use that to like repurpose it for another platform, or even just another content on the same platform that works. The other thing worth talking about here is do not make the mistake of overplanning without posting. Consistent beat perfection every single time. 20% of your content is going to bring 80% of the results. Like I said, 20% of your content is going to drive 80% of the results. But the problem is you won't know what that 20% is unless you are posting. You have to continue posting to find what that 20% is that will give you that 80% result. You can't know unless you post. That's the only way to know, right? So you have to keep posting. And also, let me say this, posting for 30 days will teach you way more than any creator course or video will ever teach you, right? So you have to learn by doing. It is by doing that you actually become a content creator. That's what has been my own story. That is what I found out. Also, be a very smart consumer. When you see a content on Instagram or TikTok that grabbed your attention, ask yourself, what did I like about this content? What can I learn from this as a creator, to infuse into my content as well? And if you find those kind of content, always remember to save them so that you can always come back to them and see why you like them in the first place. Like for almost every category I create content for, I have like a saved list for it. So when I'm scrolling and I see a particular content that is a workout content that I think relates to workout, or I like something about it, I save it into the workout folder. It might even be like a tennis content, for example, that I like, that I want to recreate and maybe take inspiration from, or there's something I like about it, I save it, so that I can always come back to it and get inspiration from that particular content. So yeah, that is very, very important. And the last point I'm going to mention here is always experiment. I believe it's very important to mix things up, do things that you won't normally do. For example, this YouTube video I'm recording using a teleprompter, a gift from a friend, and this is me just trying to use a teleprompter. I created content for like over 2 years without teleprompter. I used it once and I thought, okay, that's interesting, a different kind of workflow, but now I'm using a teleprompter for this YouTube video. Part of this video is just bullet points on the screen for me to just talk about, while part of it I wrote the entire script to actually read from the teleprompter. So yeah, let's experiment. I believe it's more fun that way, and I believe that's a way to discover new things and new ways of doing things better and faster and smarter. Well, yeah, that's it. That's my full content workflow. No magic tricks, no burnout, just a system that works for me. Whether you're trying to grow your audience, build in public, or simply share your story more clearly, I hope you find something useful in this video. Also, there's a list of free tools and resources I use in the video description. Do check them out. If anything stood out for you, let me know in the comments, and feel free to share your content workflow with me. I'm always curious to see how other people do their stuff. And if you're into honest content around working in tech, creativity, just life in general, I'd love for you to subscribe. Having you on this journey will mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching up to this point, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.